major corruption scandals under former President Akufo-Addo and the New Patriotic Party, NPP, government for the past 8 years from January 2017 to January 2025. Corruption, a word that has dominated Ghana's political conversations for decades. But how has the New Patriotic Party, NPP, fared in its fight against corruption during its 8 years in office under President Nana Akufo-Addo? Welcome back to tjfactsheeT channel, your hub for Ghana's political analysis and facts. Today, we're diving into the major corruption scandals that have rocked the Akufo-Addo and NPP administration from 2017 to January 2025. Part 1. Number 1, plagiarism of inaugural speech scandal, January 2017. The plagiarism scandal involving Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo occurred on January 7, 2017, during his inaugural address. The speech included lines closely mirrored those from former U.S. Presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush speeches, respectively. Nana Akufo-Addo was accused of lifting parts of his inaugural speech from previous addresses given by former U.S. Presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush. Take a look at it.
Citizens.
I ask you to be citizens.
Citizens, not spectators.
Citizens, not spectators.
Citizens, not subjects.
Citizens, not subjects.
Responsible citizens, building communities of service and a nation of character.
Responsible citizens, building your communities and our nation.
This led to a public uproar, with some deeming it as an embarrassment to the country and calling for the sacking of the speechwriter. The director of communication at the presidency at the time, Eugene Arhin, subsequently issued an apology. However, some Ghanaians saw this as an unprepared elected president who was not prepared for the task ahead of him if all he could do was to copy someone else's speech without acknowledgement. It was a total disgrace. Number 2, large government-size scandal, over 120 ministers of state and deputies appointed. The large size of Ghana's government under President Akufo-Addo and the NPP government had been a subject of significant public discourse and criticism. By March 2017, President Akufo-Addo appointed 110 ministers, comprising 56 substantive ministers, 50 deputy ministers, and 4 ministers of state. This was the largest ministerial appointments in Ghana's history at the time. Fast forward by February 2019. The number had increased to 123 ministers following the creation of 6 new regions, necessitating additional ministerial appointments, the largest ever government in Ghana since independence and probably the largest ever government in the world. The minority leader of the opposition National Democratic Congress at the Haruna Idrisu described the large size of the government as elephant-sized, matching the elephant in the NPP party symbol. He stated that the large size would put pressure on public funds. Other members of the minority, and the public as well, a pressure group. Occupy Ghana also criticized the government, arguing that the president would be promoting corruption with the large number of ministers he chose to work with, and questioned the commitment of the president to protecting the public purse, but the president paid no attention to the criticisms. This later put strain on the consolidated fund and massive corruption in his government. Responding in the media about a large-size government for a small country such as Ghana, the then Minister for Information, Mustafa Hamid, jabbed at critics stating that, "We never promised a lean government." The Information Minister further indicated that the only way to solve the huge problems created by the erstwhile administrations and to fulfill their campaign promises was by appointing an army of ministers to solve the problems. 3. Overbloated government foreign travels. The overbloated government foreign travel scandal in Ghana refers to controversies surrounding the high expenditures on foreign trips by President Akufo-Addo's administration, particularly between 2019 and 2021. The president went globe-trotting on a rented private jet at a cost of approximately $17,000 per hour, including going to watch the 2019 Champions League final match between Tottenham Hotspurs and Liverpool Football Club in faraway Spain. Between January and September 2019, the presidency spent over 62 million Ghanaian cedis on foreign travels and related expenses. This ostentatious and wasteful lifestyle of the president was financed by the scarce resources of the state, which could have been channeled into meeting the many needs of the Ghanaian people. In attempt to respond to these frivolous expenditures, the government spokesperson said the president needed to shower on board when attending international summits, hence the need for expensive and comfortable jets. Critics argued that such expenditures were unjustifiable when the government was urging citizens to tighten their belts. In response to the backlash, reports indicated that President Akufo-Addo began using commercial flights for international travels to mitigate costs and public criticism later. Number 4. The PDS Scandal, 2019. The Power Distribution Services, PDS scandal in Ghana emerged in 2019 during President Akufo-Addo's administration involving the privatization of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG. In March 2019, PDS assumed control of ECG's operations under a 20-year concession agreement as part of Ghana's power compact with the U.S. Millennium Challenge Corporation, MCC. By July 2019, the Ghanaian government suspended the PDS agreement after discovering that the insurance guarantees provided by PDS were invalid. Investigations revealed that the guarantees from Al-Qut Insurance and Reinsurance, a Qatari firm, were fraudulent, involving forged documents and unauthorized signatures. Ghana lost about $2 billion, comprising of $190 million under the Power Compact and another $500 million under the Regional Compact, among others. President Akufo-Addo, through the Minister of Energy, John Peter Amewu, and supported by Dr. Bawumia and the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, schemed to hand over 20 billion Ghanaian cedis state assets of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, to their cronies, who had absolutely no expertise or financial capacity to handle the affairs of ECG. The over 1 billion cedis that the PDS crooks collected from electricity consumers in the country haven't been accounted for, and President Akufo-Addo has taken no action against his errant appointees who supervised this huge financial loss nor responsibility. The Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA Ghana, estimated that Ghana lost nearly $2 billion in total, considering the forfeited MCC funds and other related investments. This was as a result of cronyism and family and friends government perpetrated by President Akufo-Addo. Then former President John Dramani Mahama criticized the Akufo-Addo administration, attributing the loss of funds to corrupt cronyistic actions of Akufo-Addo. Number 5. The renegotiation of Ameri Novation deal scandal, 2018. The Ameri Novation deal scandal in Ghana unfolded between 2015 and 2018, involving significant financial implications and political controversy. Original Agreement, 2015. In February 2015, the government of Ghana, under President John Dramani Mahama, entered into a $510 million Build-Own-Operate Transfer (BOOT) agreement with UAE-based Ameri Energy. The deal aimed to lease 300 megawatts of emergency power to alleviate the country's energy crisis. The contract was set for 5 years, after which ownership would transfer to Ghana. The renegotiation of the Ameri deal, 2018. Upon taking office in 2017, President Akufo-Addo's administration raised concerns about the original deal, alleging that it was overpriced by approximately $150 million. In July 2018, Energy Minister Bawumia Agyapa introduced a renegotiated Novation and Amendment Agreement to Parliament. It was then discovered that a Ameri renegotiation deal by the Akufo-Addo government was inflated by President Akufo-Addo himself by a whopping $880 million. It would be recalled that President Akufo-Addo, who granted executive approval for this highly inflated deal, later turned around and blamed the then Energy Minister, Boakie Agyapa, for misleading him, and Minister was subsequently forced to resign with a promise to investigate and get to the bottom of that scam. But no investigation took place whatsoever to unearth the wrongdoing under President Akufo-Addo until he left power in January 2025. However, the proposed deal faced criticism for lacking endorsements from the Attorney General and Finance Minister, meaning there was wrongdoing. Number 6. The PPA contracts for sale, or Donkomi scandal. The contracts for sale scandal, also known as the Donkomi scandal, was a major corruption case in Ghana that surfaced in 2019, involving the Public Procurement Authority, PPA, and its then Chief Executive Officer, Agyapa Boateng Ajayi. One of the most grievous and distasteful corruption scandals Ghana had witnessed under the watch of President Akufo-Addo was the Public Procurement Authority, PPA contracts for sale scandal involving the then CEO, Mr. A.B. Ajayi, where an investigative journalist, Manese Azuri Awuni, revealed the extent to which Mr. A.B. Ajayi used his private company, Talent Discovery Limited, to procure over 10 government contracts through restrictive tendering and, in some cases, single sourcing, and illegally sold these contracts to other entities to enrich himself. In August 2019, when the news broke, President Akufo-Addo acted immediately and suspended A.B. Ajayi, the PPA boss, and referred the matter to the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, CHRAJ, and the Office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP, for investigations. However, it was troubling to note that the Akufo-Addo government continued to pay Mr. A.B. Ajayi his full salaries even when he was on suspension and undergoing investigation. President Akufo-Addo's government had refused to retrieve from Mr. A.B. Ajayi the billions of Ghana cedis that he had stolen and to prosecute him for the serious crimes he perpetrated against the state. According to the OSP's investigative report on this matter, Mr. A.B. Ajayi, through his corrupt activities, amassed so much wealth such that his total bank account balance, which stood at about 45,000 Ghana cedis as at January 2017 when the NPP took office prior to his appointment, rose astronomically to about 45 million Ghanaian cedis in just 3 years in office as PPA boss, comprising 15,690,000 Ghanaian cedis, 4,470,000 US dollars, and 54,500 euros in his accounts. These amounts had significantly exceeded his known income, and he failed to provide satisfactory explanations for the sources of these funds, yet this corrupt individual walks free on the street of Ghana under President Akufo-Addo's 8 years rule. Though having been indicted by both CRAJ and OSP for wrongdoing, what more evidence does the president and his NPP government needed to prosecute such a corrupt man? The contracts for sale scandal highlighted significant lapses in Ghana's public procurement processes and underscored the need for stringent oversight and transparency in government contracting. Number 7. The Agyapa Scandal, 2020. The Agyapa royalties scandal emerged in 2020, centering on the Ghanaian government's plan to monetize future gold royalties through a special purpose vehicle, SPV, named Agyapa Royalties Limited. A monumental scandal of the Akufo-Addo government was the Agyapa gold royalties transaction. President Akufo-Addo, once again supported by his cousin, the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, and other close associates in government, constituted a fraudulent vehicle called Agyapa to enable them mortgage Ghana's gold royalties for the next 15 years in exchange for a paltry sum of $500 million. The Office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP, led by Martin Amidu, initiated a corruption risk assessment of the deal, citing concerns over transparency and potential legal breaches, stated that the Agyapa deal is fraught with illegalities, corruption, bid rigging, greed, cronyism, and potential money laundering. President Akufo-Addo and his cousin, the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, attempted to influence the work of the special prosecutor, leading to his resignation and subsequent threats on his life. The former special prosecutor, Martin Amidu, later described President Akufo-Addo as the mother serpent of corruption. However, as we speak, President Akufo-Addo was unable to retrieve for the state the over $4 million, equivalent to 240 billion old Ghana cedis he illegally paid to Databank, which is owned by his cousin and finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, and Africa Legal Associates, a law firm belonging to another cousin of President Akufo-Addo, Gabi Asare Ochere Darko, under the dubious Agyapa deal. The Agyapa royalties scandal underscores the importance of transparency, due diligence, and public engagement in managing national resources. Number 8. 1 million Cecilia Dapaah, Money Hoarding Scandal, 2022. The Ghanaian Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources, Cecilia Dapaah, resigned in July 2023 following a scandal involving large sums of foreign currency allegedly stolen from her residence by her house helps. In October 2022, Ms. Dapaah's two house helps, 18 and 30 years, respectively, were arrested and charged with stealing $1 million, 300,000 euros, and millions of Ghana cedis from the minister's home between July and October 2022. The two were charged with conspiracy and multiple counts of theft. The scandal prompted calls for her resignation from the opposition minority leader to allow for an independent investigation into the source of the funds, given her status as an Article 71 public office holder. In her resignation letter to the president, Ms. Dapaah cited not wanting the matter to hinder the government's work as her reason for stepping down. She pledged to cooperate fully with investigations and expressed confidence she would be exonerated. Same minister dredged the Odaw River with $42 million, but there was no substantive result seen on the river up to date. She subsequently failed to substantiate the source of the monies and found her bedroom, but the woman is walking free with the looted state money in her purse. No action was taken to retrieve the looted state funds under President Akufo-Addo until he exited power in January 2025. These were just few of the numerous corruption and major scandals that happened under former President Akufo-Addo and the NPP government for the past 8 years, leading to huge financial strains on the public purse. Keep watching. Part 2, coming soon. Thanks for watch. Like, comment, and share. Bye.